So I saw The Housemaid earlier today. I know this is based on a popular book. I haven't read the book. The trailers didn't really look that interesting to me. I did hear some good word of mouth about it, so I think I'll check it out. My overall thoughts on this movie is that I wasn't a fan of it personally. Now, I will say this movie has a good critic score. It has, I think it's in the 70s on the critic score, and it has a very high audience score in the 90s. I think it's 91 on Rotten Tomatoes. So, I didn't like this movie. I will say though, I can understand why it has those scores. I can see some people having fun with this movie and find it entertaining, or just find it kind of like a guilty pleasure type movie. So it's one of the movies where I can totally understand why people would find this a fun movie. For me, it didn't really click with me. Well, but there are some positives. The positives I'll say about this movie, and this is the two positives I have about this movie that worked for me personally. Amanda Seinfeld, who plays the character Nina Winchester, I think she gives a great performance in this movie. She does a great job of playing this character where she can be very sane at the same time. She can like flip and be crazy. So I think she does a great job switching between those sides of the characters, and I think she just gives just a great performance in this movie where I just think she's an interesting character where you go like, oh man, she just has a lot of she's just able to switch between like you really buy her when she's crazy, and you also buy her when she's not nuts. And I think she does a great job with that character in this movie. I think she gives a great performance. I think the actor who played Andrew Winchester, Nia's husband, Brendan, he was in the movie Drop, which is a movie that I love that came out earlier this year. I think he's great in this movie when it comes to playing this charming husband. And while at the same time, I'm gonna get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, stop the video now. When in the third act you find out that he's really the bad guy and he goes crazy, he's able to switch between those where he can be very charming and likable, but also be completely a psychopath. And I can see why he's actually been a fan cast as Batman. Like if he did cast as Batman, Watson drop, and especially this, I think he would make actually a great Bruce Wayne Batman because I think he could play the dark, broody Batman and also play the charming playboy Bruce Wayne. So I think he's great in this movie. I think those two are great in this movie, and those two would be the positive with this movie for me at least. Now the negatives I have with this movie is that Sidonie Sweeney, who look, I thought she was great in Christina. I would say for people who say she's not a good actress, watch Christina. I think she gives a great performance in that movie. The movie wasn't great. I thought that movie was good. You can check out my review for that on here. That movie shows she can be a great actress when she's given, like a good role. And then I will also say, Immaculate, that horror movie she was in when she played a nun. I would say watch the final scene of that movie. Her performance in like the last few minutes of that movie, I think she's fantastic. So she has shown she does have some ways as an actress. Like in this movie though, someone has to do I think with the writing of the character. I don't think her performance is all that great in this movie. Her performance comes off very subdued in this movie. And I don't know if that's the dressing or the way her character. I think some of it is with the way the character's written because it's just not a very interesting character. Her character's honestly very just kind of a boring character in this and not very interesting in this movie. And again, some of it has to do with the writing. I don't think they give her anything to work with in this movie with the writing. And I feel like there's a lot of times in this movie where I feel like a character should have bigger reactions and stuff in this movie, and her reactions are very subdued in this movie with her performance in a way that just comes off kind of dull and boring. So I don't think her performance was very good in this movie, but I also think her character she wasn't really. I feel like her character wasn't written in an interesting way either. Like she wasn't given anything really interesting to work with the writing. And I would definitely say when you have scenes with her and Amanda, plays Nina Winchester. To me, she's given a much better performance, and her character has much more personality to her character. While Cindy Sweeney, I feel like her character is just very blandness to her character. So, like I said, some of it has to do with the writing. I think also it also has to do with what I think her performance wasn't great in this movie. So, to me, she was the weak link in the movie, performance wise, out of the three. And when it comes to this movie, I found it very predictable. So, the big twist in the movie, as I already said, we find out later on the husband is the bad guy. That he's trapped Amanda's character, his wife, in this house, and he's a psychopath, and that she's been trying to find a way to get out, and she has a daughter, and he's basically uses charm to like get close to her, and then she finds out that he's actually a bad guy. So the whole twist is that she hires a housemaid. Uh, I keep forgetting the actress's name. Sydney Sweeney hires her as a housemaid to use her to get away from her husband, to get her kid out of there too. The husband being a bad guy was just very predictable for me. I saw that setup coming because of the fact that he was just way too charming and nice, and it just felt very obvious to me. Like it wasn't one of those twists that I was like, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. Like I guessed that before it happened when I was watching the movie. It just felt to me like an obvious, predictable dressing to go. Like so that twist didn't really surprise me. You have the groundkeeper in this movie where his character was just kind of there to me. They didn't really like. I feel like his character didn't really do much. Like he is like connected to Amanda's character and trying to help her get out of this situation. I feel like I feel like he was just kind of like his character was wasted in this movie. An actor was. They didn't really give him anything to do. Also, this movie gets more and more ridiculous as it goes along. Like the first half, it's ridiculous, but it's not like over the top. The second half gets so campy and cheesy and kind of cringy to me and over the top in a way I don't find really entertaining. Like I can see this being like a throwback to like those type of thrillers back then. Which again, this is why I can see people having fun with this movie. To me it didn't click with me, and I found it way too cheesy and campy and over the top as the movie went along. And it got and like in this third act when the stuff starts to happen and the husband is the bad guy and the wife was like the one that was hired a housemaid and was all set up so she could get her and her daughter out of there. It just makes me go back and like go like I feel like some of it didn't really make any sense when you think about the first act with the decisions there. So it gets even more ridiculous to me for me personally when I was like thinking about it. And it like I said, it got too campy and cheesy for me. This is like one of those movies that just did not click for me personally. I can see people having fun with this movie. I am actually not surprised by the critic score being 75 and having an extremely high audience score. Because, like I said, it's one of those movies where I was like, I didn't like this movie. It, you know, the two actors I think are really the best things about this movie with their performances. And I can see how campy and cheesy and ridiculous this movie is in a way that could be fun for people. So it's one of those movies where I'm like, yeah, I totally get people being entertained by this film. Again, I don't know what the book is like, and I'm going to assume the book has that type of vibe. Just for me personally, I didn't connect with this movie, and it just felt silly and ridiculous in a way that was just not fun for me personally, and extremely cheesy. And I don't mind when movies get ridiculous and over the top and cheesy and all that. It just this was done in a way where it was like, okay, I just have too many questions in the first half. I have even more questions when we get to the second half of like when I think about it more and how ridiculous they got. And it was just a very predictable movie too. It felt very like okay, I saw that coming with the husband. it wasn't like a surprise twist for me personally. I was like, I guessed that before it happened. And they also have some points. This is another thing that kind of shows Sydney Sweeney how her performance felt very subdued and bland to me. Is that she would have these moments where she would do narrations at certain points in the movie, and I'll be honest, I really didn't like that element of the movie because the problem is her character is so damn boring to me in this movie. And the performance is just very bland in this movie. Again, something has to do with the lighting, I think, with the character. But I was like, okay, yeah, I'm getting tired of hearing these narrations where they come off like it's extremely like dull. So it's just, and another problem is that she's the main character of the movie. So it's like she's a character you're like kind of like following, following, and the one you root for at the end to get out at the end of the movie. So when your main character isn't all that interesting, it's just for me personally, I just didn't. I was like, okay, I don't really care for a character. And to be honest, if you just made this movie about this husband and wife, and you cut out the housemaid part of it, I I think probably would have been better. And that's no offense to Sydney Sweeney, who, like I said, watch Christina. I think she's a great actress. I think she's great in that. The final scene of Immaculate, I think her performance in that final scene is great too. To me, she's shown in those two movies she can be a really good or great actress. It's just in this movie, her character is written so like in a way where you just her character is just not very interesting. And just I was like, anytime she was on screen and she's acting with Amanda, as I said this earlier, Amanda or the actor Brendan, I feel like they're like acting. The acting is like much better than hers in this movie, and I think the characters are much more interesting in this movie. So when it was like, I feel like when they were in a scene, I was like more invested in the two crazy characters than I was in Sydney Sweeney's character, who was like just like I was like, okay, you're just you just the writing for your character is so like you're just not an interesting character. You're just an extremely boring character. So that's my thoughts on a housemaid. I would say go check it out for yourself. It's got a good critic score. It's got a high audience score, and I've seen reviews where people said this was a really fun movie for them. So you know, this is just my experience. And I would say if you're interested in this movie, or you're excited for this movie, or if you're a fan of the book, go check it out for yourself. You might have a different experience than I have. You know, I'm in the minority when it comes to this movie. From at least if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm in the minority on my viewpoint of this movie. So I wouldn't recommend it personally, but I will also say if you're excited or interested in this movie, go check it out for yourself. You might have a different experience than I did. So that's my thoughts on The Housemaid. Until next time, movie fans.